Earlier this year, in June, the GVPTA and the BC Alliance for Arts and Culture teamed up to present Unrestricted, a two-day conference hosted at the Arts Club BMO Centre on West 1st. The conference distinguished itself by the impact of its Indigenous presence, but it wasn't originally planned that way. So, Margo, perhaps you could tell us how you initially became involved with the Unrestricted conference and what concerns you had as the dates of the conference drew closer.
I actually don't remember how it all started. But Brenda was very much, I'm pretty sure she invited some thoughts about it.
We had a few conversations about how we could bring an Indigenous cultural experience to the people at the conference.
And Brenda and I have a long relationship going back to when I first came to Vancouver in the early 80s. And somewhere in that time, we ended up in a workshop with Yoshi Oida, right?
Yep.
And so it was a physical theater workshop, and we worked together when I established Full Circle, actually, as we started as a group training together and working together in the rehearsal room. And Brenda became one of our guest teachers, and I really admired Brenda's work, early work before she went to UBC. So we have a long relationship, and you know, a good friendship over many, many years, even though our lives have come together and apart. So I actually, I know we had a number of conversations, and all I can remember is that it was a very tough year, couple of years. I was very overtired, and I went to a residency at Banff Centre along with Primary Colours, a residence.
When we got the schedule of what was going to be happening.
Yes, that's right. So I was there, and I got the schedule. Well, actually, I think you opened it first. Maybe I got the schedule by email too, but I think it was you who called my attention to the schedule.
Yes, I'm afraid I had a little something to do with it. So do you recall what we saw on that schedule?
That actually the offering that I had hoped to do, or some way of offering to the conference, was at the end of the conference. And while I don't remember ever saying that it was that's the kind of session I wanted, there was there was a powwow dancer who was going to be at the beginning of the conference, the two-day conference, right? So, but my understanding had always been that we would open the conference, that whatever session it was going to be. And then I hadn't really thought about it in any great length, because we're talking about the idea of, you know, not just being talking heads at a conference, that actually to open it with some kind of sense of place and Indigenous offering of ritual, as it turned out to be. It wasn't a sacred ceremony or anything, but it was, for me, it was always that we would set the stage for the way that we went through those 2 days.
Right. I mean, I guess I should admit my involvement by saying that in addition to the way the Indigenous participation had been programmed with a powwow dancer at the beginning and Margo ending the conference at the end of the second day, I had also expressed concerns in an email to Brenda and to Kenji, who was co-producing it, that I was concerned that the diversity session was a breakout session in the afternoon of the second day. And I had vowed some 5 years previous to that I would never attend another conference ever again where diversity was a breakout session. Yeah. Because diversity should be integrated in everything we do. And so, so Brenda, you got this email. Maybe you could tell us a little bit how it felt to get this email when you had been working so hard to try to be inclusive.
Yeah, well, just as, you know, what Andrea said, I was very upset. I was angry. I was very hurt, I think, because I think, you know, for many years, as Margo's mentioned, you know, I've been working with trying to bring Indigenous stories forward in theater, and I felt that, you know, Margo and I have known each other for such a long time. I thought, well, why the hell didn't she just tell me that? You know, why didn't she just say? Because we hadn't really talked about the placement or anything like that, and we'd had this powwow dancer, which, you know, Margo explained to me afterwards, you know, was not really the right protocol and the right way to do it. And that what the hell was she doing? What were we doing, you know? So it was a learning, but I was upset for sure, and I called Margo right away. And I said, Margo, you know, whatever, you can do whatever you want, you know, it's like not a problem. But I was still really, you know, kind of pissed off at you, Valerie. And I just thought, I think I was so deeply hurt because I'd always worked so hard for decades to be inclusive and to champion Indigenous voices and to be fair and to, you know, I was one of the few people, Donna Spencer and I think, probably doing that. And I just felt it was unjust. And I felt that maybe you didn't know that I had done that or not. But that was my initial reaction.
Yeah. I mean, it was super awkward for me because Brenda was sitting on my working group for Diverse Theatre BC, and Kenji as well. And so, yeah, it was a really difficult email for me to write, for sure.
I think what was important for me is, I think you texted me first, and I think I just like, yeah, well, you know, it's a tense situation, so, you know, we're all tense about it, so we'll get through it. You know, and just kind of pace ourselves to like face up to try and figure out what to do. So. And
you told me, which was really helpful, you said you shouldn't take it so personally. But I did.
But I think we're all really passionate people about how we're living our lives, especially in the arts. And I think the great thing about everything that happened was then we decided that we would have a meeting. You know, Valerie said, "What do you think?" And I somewhere in the mix, I said, "Well, we just need to come together and talk about it and just clarify and just be clear, that's all." And so we tried to take the emotion out of it. I mean, it was a little easier for me to take the emotion out of it because I was tired, and these are people I care about and the issues I care about. But, you know, at a certain point, you just, like, if you're willing to sit down and talk, I think we'll be fine. And really, that's really what happened. We had a nice meeting. I was pleased with the meeting. I was relaxed. It was raining. I might have been late, you know, whatever. It was like, okay, let's just state the facts. We state the fact. Oh, well, can we make a change? And I think both you and Kenji said, you know, we can change it. You know, that's the most important thing. Is like we can make the changes. Well, we don't want to like do it, you know, make like huge changes, but we ended up opening the conference and closing the conference in a manner that went even beyond what I thought could be there. And I guess I would say that in everything that we've been talking about and you've been talking about tonight is that we really need to be heard, that's all. And yes, emotions aside, like I've heard some horrible fights, cat and dog fights with people trying to fight these issues. And, you know, fighting isn't helpful in the end. And we all got to get a lot off our chest, for sure, okay? But there comes a point when we just have to face up and go, okay, what can I do to be part of the solution? I don't understand what I did. I thought I was doing it, okay. But, okay, we're friends. Let's transcend the notion that we have to, like, battle it out. I mean, that's the higher ground. I mean, it's not so easy. But, you know, we all have, I always say, oh yeah, I look really calm. I really, my boyfriend put up with a lot of my venting about this, that, and the other. And then, but at the end of the day, we have to come out and try and talk to each other, really, and hear each other and be part of the solution and work together. And I've, you know, it's very admirable what everyone has done here. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that change is on its way. You can't stop it now.
So I just want to add that I was in Banff with Margo at the time, and so we couldn't meet with Brenda and Kenji until we got back. So I think we had a good week to cool off. So Brenda, maybe you could speak a little bit more, like, I think you already did say how difficult it was because you felt like you had, or you have, done a lot of work in supporting Indigenous and racialized artists in your many different capacities. So what for you would be the most positive outcome of this particular situation?
Well, it was really great because, you know, sometimes I think I can only speak for myself. I think I was complacent, and I thought, well, you know, it'll be what it'll be. I'll do it. You know, I know what I'm doing. But it was another level of learning for me. It was another level of understanding that it doesn't always, I don't have to always be the one who's responsible and think that I have to make all the decisions myself, and that can be more collaborative. It really made me see how I myself was still working towards decolonizing my own brain. And it also made me realize that I needed to do something more, that I needed to start putting myself in a more of a mentorship role and start to give other people more of a leadership role. So that has not ever been a thought of mine. But, you know, it was like a really humbling experience, because I always, you know, I do like to acknowledge and look at, you know, where did I go wrong? Like what Andrea is saying, what did I do, you know? And I think that, you know, it was just in the clarity of my conversations with Margo and not understanding it. And I think I learned a lot.
Great. I do want to give credit to you as well. Like that thing I said, like that meeting when we came back from Banff, I was pretty nervous. And I had, you know, but again, I was able to put out, you know, my ideas and what I thought might be appropriate. And again, I didn't feel any passive aggressiveness, because that's the worst. And so I want to thank you, Brenda, for not doing that.
Well, and I want to thank you, I guess. No, it was a good learning experience, and sometimes that is the way we learn. It's not always easy.